So what I like to do is I like to take my ankle leash and I'm gonna go ahead and put that around my wrist that I plan on holding the board with. And then the board should be tipped up when you find it. It should always be tipped up so the fin is not sitting in the sand or on any hard surfaces, because that fin, though it's durable, can be broken and someone can maybe accidentally step on it. So make sure that your board is always sitting on the beach, fin up. So what I'm gonna do is walk to one end and I'm gonna tip the board up on one of its rails, and I'm gonna walk myself to the middle and I'm gonna go ahead and pull that handle out, or if there's no handle to pull out, I'm just gonna grab it by the handle. And then I'm gonna pick up my paddle, which I have located on the other side, or you can carry it all in one hand. I find it's a little bit easier to carry one in each hand. When I go out into the water, or when I lift the board, I'm gonna get a nice athletic stance, lifting with my knees, and I'm gonna kind of lean that board against my hip, and I'm gonna stand up using my legs, not my back. When I'm ready to go out in the water, I'm gonna make sure that I go at least deep enough so that the fin isn't gonna hit the ground when I put it on the water. And once I have it that far out, I'm actually gonna go a little bit further out yet even, so when I put my weight on the board, it will not touch the ground. So here we go. So once I have my board out in the water, I've got a little bit of sand on it. I'm gonna go ahead and flip the board over and wash that sand off. Flip it back over towards me. And I'm about halfway between my knees and my waist. That's about how deep I want to be. Once my board is in the water, I'm gonna set my paddle down and I'm gonna go ahead and put that ankle strap or the leash on my ankle. So I'm gonna put my dominant foot up on the board, open up that ankle strap. Again, make sure that the leash is pointing directly back from my Achilles tendon. Get it nice and tight, and the leash is officially attached. Once my leash is attached, I'm gonna go ahead and get myself onto the board. So whenever I am entering any watercraft, I wanna make sure that I'm always having 3 points of contact. So I'm gonna have one hand on this rail, one hand on this rail, and I always have a foot on the ground. Once I swing my leg over to the center of the board, I'm gonna try to shift my weight to my far hand. That way I don't end up tipping towards my body. So I'm gonna shift just like that. And the first thing I wanna do is go ahead and lay down on my board in the prone position. Once I'm in the prone position, I'm going to go ahead and paddle out into deeper water before I stand up on my knees or stand up on my feet. I want to be mindful of any rocks that might be in the water. I want to be mindful of, there's a dock right here. I don't want to be getting up on my stand-up paddleboard close to a dock. And that's because in case I were to fall, I wouldn't want to hit any of those obstacles as I fall. So you can see I'm kind of maneuvering myself around like I'm on a surfboard maybe, just kind of swimming doggy paddle moves forward and backwards. And that's how you would paddle in the prone position. Once you're feeling comfortable in the prone position, you can test the buoyancy of the board or the stability of the board by leaning your weight on one rail or the other. And that's gonna give you a good idea of how wobbly the board's gonna be. Excuse me. Once I'm comfortable and I'm feeling like I wanna go to the next progression, I'm gonna go ahead and move up to my knees. So whenever we're on a stand-up paddleboard, we always want it to be one swift move. And I'm gonna go ahead and move to my knees. And I see that I'm pretty far forward on the board, so I'm gonna shift myself back so the handle is right in between my knees, just like this. Once I am on my knees, I'm gonna go ahead and put my paddle in my hand. When we're paddling at our knees, we don't actually put our hand on top of the paddle. We hold it with 2 thumbs up, one hand over the other. Just like so. I'm actually gonna get turned around here. So when you're paddling from your knees and you're paddling with a power forward stroke, you want to reach as far as you can to the front of the board, put your blade in the water all the way so that it's to the blade, and then you power forward. So a good way to remember is CPR, catch, power, recovery. Catch, power, recovery. And when I'm paddling straight forward, I want to make sure that my hands are stacked, meaning when I'm paddling, my hands are right over the top of each other. Starting at the front of the board and coming out right at my knees. I want to paddle right next to the rail. All right, so once I'm comfortable paddling at my knees, I can go ahead and go to that third progression, and go to my feet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place my paddle perpendicular to the board, place my hands nice and flat over the paddle, and I'm gonna shift myself back just so my feet land at that center spot, and I'm gonna go straight from here, and I'm gonna do it all in one swift motion. Stand up just like that. Or if you're not comfortable with bringing both legs up at the same time, you can bring one up at a time. Just make sure you're counterbalancing. So if I bring my left foot up, I'm putting weight on my left foot and on my right hand. That way the board is balanced. And again, during each progression, you can test out the stability of the board, making sure that you are comfortable with your situation. So once we go to our feet, we are going to paddle with our hand over the top of the T-grip, and our bottom hand is down on the shaft with the thumb facing up. So I'm going to show you a forward stroke while standing. Now we're going to go over how to turn in a stand-up position. So it's very similar where you reach to the front of the board, except for rather than having your hands stacked one over the other and paddling next to the rail, you're going to start at the front of your board and you're actually going to do a sweep out to the side. So your hands are at about a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to start at the nose, come out to the side, again coming out right at my ankles. All right, as we're coming in, we want to make sure that we are going back in those transitions down to our knees and then down to the prone position in that shallow water, so we don't have any hazards as far as hitting ourselves in the water. We want to make sure to get off the board before the fin hits the ground. The way we get off is just like how we got on, 3 points of contact. When we bring the board up onto shore, we want to make sure that we have the board lifted up and out of the water. And then once we are ready and done, we can put our stand-up paddleboards back on the beach, fin up, and hopefully we'll see you at the next adventure that you have. Thank you for watching.